podcast for MotoGP, motorsports, and more. I am your host, Zoe, and I'm the team they told you to not worry about.
I'm your other host, Zoe, and I really hate that shirt exists. I think that's one of the worst things I've seen in the last year, which is saying a lot.
Saying a lot about the current state of the world. For those who don't know what we're talking,
and how awful that shirt was.
For those who don't know what we're talking about, Visa, Cash App, fuck ass Red Bull released a shirt that says the team they told you not to worry about, and nobody was worrying.
Yeah, actually, no one was worried about them.
If nothing else,
if nothing else, it's nice to not have to watch that shirt be put on Daniel Ricciardo's body. So
I just think that this year's going to be real rough.
Yeah, it's not going to be good. Ugh. Yuki, get out.
Yeah. Shall we get into MotoGP news?
We shall. Yes, let's talk MotoGP. The latest and greatest in the sport right now is we just finished the end of the preseason for the 2025 season. So we finished Buriram testing. Everyone's taking a couple weeks to kind of chill out. That's a joke because the factories are not chilling out at all. This preseason has been really long and really close to the beginning of the season. So we'll be back to Buriram for the season opener in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I think it was like an illuminating end of the preseason. I think everyone kind of knows what the vibes are going into the season now. And then it was capped off with the combined Marc Marquez, Valentino Rossi birthday extravaganza over the course of 2 days. Our Aquarius Kings.
And Valentine's Day, so it was like a boom, 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 boom. Back to back to back to back. Happy birthday. How old is Val?
Valley turned 46 this year.
Oh my god, wait, his favorite number.
It was his golden birthday, yeah.
That's really exciting. I'm sure he's over the moon about that.
I don't know. It looked like, again, I don't want to be that person to be like, I need to be involved in celebrities' lives, but it looked like he had a pretty chill birthday party compared to what you might assume from a guy like Valet. But again, he's turning 46. He's going to be a father of 2 soon. So, but yeah, happy birthday.
So happy birthday to our Aquarii.
So there's a lot to talk about coming from testing, if we want to talk through that.
Let's get into it.
I hate to always talk about Jorge Martin for 2 minutes at the top of the pod, but there's not really much else to say about him right now. Other than the fact that Aprilia is confirming he will be at the season opener for the first race of the season. So that's good news. The other, this is, I guess, less about Aprilia and more about Trackhouse, is Pitbull is no longer part of the Trackhouse ecosystem. Mr. Worldwide has parted ways.
Pitbull was in the Trackhouse ecosystem?
Yeah, he was a huge sponsor for them.
I did not know this. Mr. Worldwide.
Oh my goodness.
This is going to ruin
I'm so sorry to break the news.
This is going to ruin the tour.
The world tour. But yeah, Pitbull kind of like surprisingly just announced that he was not a partner with Trackhouse anymore. No official like press about it.
I have a story about Pitbull and motorsport. I went to the Grand Prix in Montreal, and he was supposed to be the featured concert. Now, unlike Coda, where you get your tickets included to see the featured musician, you had to buy a $90 ticket on top of your weekend tickets to see this Pitbull concert. And so there were people there that were going to see the concert just on its own, besides the, attendees, and it was going to be after the race. So, first of all, extremely exciting race, but the weather had been on and off all weekend. It raining, hailing at one point. So I'm sure people were exhausted, soaking wet. But there was a really long line. I was a shockingly long line to see Pitbull. And then he canceled last minute. He canceled last minute, and he said that weather was the reason why, but it turns out his plane hadn't even left, like, somewhere in the States, and he canceled, like, 10 minutes before he was supposed to go on, so I don't think that was the reason. What's Pitbull's name?
Mr. Worldwide.
What's Pitbull's government name?
I don't know. That's none of my business. I don't know his first name. I don't know him like that.
All right, we'll move on.
Worldwide, comma, Mr., comma, Esquire. We'll miss you, Pitbull. Zoe won't, but I will.
It's Pitbull.
Dale. Moving on to Ducati, actually.
Ducati.
The biggest thing about Ducati is, we've talked about this before, but they are subject to an engine freeze for 2025 and 2026. So they spent a lot of time during the Buriram test figuring out what to do with the bikes. And we've also kind of talked about this before, but the 2024 Desmo City G, the bike that they used last year for the factory team, is kind of widely regarded as one of the best bikes in MotoGP history. Combined with, you know, the people who are on it, the smarts in the garage, the designers, it's very reminiscent of the Red Bull racing situation in 2023.
The RB19.
And we've kind of talked about this before, where they've kind of perfected the vehicle, and they're actually in the same situation that Red Bull was last year, where they don't really have anywhere else to go with it, and developing it further might put them down a path that could ultimately see diminishing returns, while the rest of the grid is behind them. So I think there's a lot of similarities in the sense of, yeah, last year's 2024 bike for Ducati was not, quote unquote, the perfect bike, but it is the best bike that has existed in MotoGP up until now. The problem that I think Red Bull and Ducati have found themselves in is the similar one of, where do we go from here and how do we not fuck it up when we have all of the room to do so? And I think Red Bull fucked it up. Like, I think we now know that there are things about the car that Red Bull was kind of ignoring because Max could drive it beyond what it maybe was capable of delivering from other drivers. They're not thinking about, okay, should we take a step back? Should we kind of think about things further? They were not thinking about any of that, especially when they started losing Newey and Christian Horner started ruining every good thing any person could ever say about the team. Ducati, interestingly, I don't know if they kept an eye on any of that, but they seem to have learned something from that. Ultimately, Ducati found at the end of the Buriram test, the 2024 engine is what they want to run with. So they're running with the majority of the 2024 bike for the factory riders. Keep in mind, the other Ducati riders on the grid will be running the 2024 bike as well. Pecco himself said he and Mark will be starting 2025 on the 2024.9 version of the 2024 bike. So it'll be very, very close. And I think it's just a really interesting thought process of, okay, winning is the goal. We are going to have less of a gap than we maybe did last year. It seems very egoless. Like, that's what I think is really interesting in a sport where ego is such a big thing and winning is everything.
Like you said, it's an egoless decision in an ego-driven sport, which makes me think that Ducati is feeling... It almost circles back to ego in a way, in that they're like, yes, it's egoless, but also they're feeling so comfortable that I think it leans into this hint of egotism. And in a way, I wonder if it means there will be closer racing in MotoGP as well, because like you said, people have had time to catch up to this bike. Like, again, I'm sure it's still going to be superior, and I do believe that they have the strongest pairing on the grid. But if others are, you know, have had time to catch up, I think that can make for some really exciting racing.
That's a great segue. Can we talk about Yamaha?
Yes. I wasn't even trying to segue. I'm really glad that worked.
You're just so natural at it. So for Yamaha coming out of this testing, I think everybody was really I say everybody, I was also very taken by their performance at the beginning of preseason. So yeah, my gut feeling, and like I've said before, is that I think Yamaha's going to have a good season compared to the last couple of years. I think Fabio Quartararo said that over the last 3 or 4 years, he made up 0.6 over the course of a couple of years. And then from last season to now, he made up 0.8. So that I think is just putting up a
That's
really,
crazy.
really solid. Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that your gut feeling is a good gut feeling. I mean, you've been calling this since day one.
I said this before. I think it's going to be a better season with Fabio fighting for it at the front with everybody.
Was it Pecco who said he expected Yamaha to come second after Ducati?
Yeah, that was Pecco. So who knows? Mark was also very, very strong at Buriram testing. A lot of people were running simulations for sprints and race distances. Mark's race simulation, so that was about 22, 23 laps at the track. Every single one of those laps was underneath 1 minute and 31 seconds. And the average lap time of that whole simulation was 0.2 lower than the fastest ever race lap recorded at Buriram.
That's crazy.
It is ominous.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I got, like, goosebumps. Like, buddy.
Man is 32 years old.
This Ducati move.
It's nuts. Like, it's really crazy. Every day I get more excited about it and more anxious. So, this will be a really rough, or it's just going to be a rough year. Whatever happens, I'll be going through it. So we've talked about testing. We've talked about Pitbull. Now that we're at the end of preseason, should we maybe talk about some predictions?
I would love nothing more. And I think this is going to be really interesting because I've never predicted anything accurately ever in my entire life. And I know very little about this sport. So I'm really excited to revisit whatever the fuck I say. I'm sure you're going to be bang on. But I'm really excited to revisit whatever the fuck I say in December of 2025.
I'm excited for that too. So for our predictions, we're going to do 3 kind of chunks. 1, we'll predict the top 5 riders for the end of the year. So definitely you're going to get those exactly right, 100%.
100%.
2, we'll talk about the Japanese Cup. So we'll talk about our expectations for the end of the year for Honda versus Yamaha. And then 3, we'll talk about our predictions for the rider who's going to crash the most this year.
Do we want to start there?
Let's start with the most crashes.
Yeah.
You go first as the newcomer.
I think it's going to be Fabio Di Gianantonio.
Okay, interesting choice. Why?
Because he already crashed once for a silly reason, and I think that's just going to keep happening, maybe.
You know what? I can't argue with you on that one.
It's a good as guess as any.
What am I supposed to say?
This is what you've told me about this man. He crashed his bike last year and broke a bunch of shit. And then in his first time back on the bike, he did a wheelie and crashed it again and broke a bunch of shit. These are the 2 things I know about the man. So I'm just putting facts together and forming a logical conclusion.
And that's on me for only giving you those 2 facts, but we're leaving it there. I love that. Sorry, Fabio, you're catching strays. We love you. I think I'm going to go with Pedro Acosta.
Okay.
Is going to be my crashingest person this season.
Crash King.
And that is based on Crash King. That is based on the fact that he crashed a shit ton in 2024. And you know what? The easy answer, of course, is Marc Marquez, the man who loves to crash. This is just fact about him. But I think he's actually not going to crash as much as we expect him to this year because he knows that the title is essentially his to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's going to play it safe a lot more than he typically does. So I'm going for Pedro.
Okay.
Which actually would be kind of a bummer because KTM is fucked right now. So I hope Pedro doesn't crash a lot because it's actually really expensive.
Yeah. Once again, not to bring
But
up
I'm
the
sticking
subject
with
of
it.
OnlyFans, but
You know what? I was literally about to say I'm 10 toes down on that, and then you said. Anyways, we're moving on.
Japanese Cup.
Yeah, I feel like I have been very clear on my opinions
On Yamaha.
for how this is gonna go.
Yeah.
I think Honda's making some good moves. I think they're progressing, but they're not progressing as much as Yamaha is, so I think Yamaha is gonna come out on top.
I'm going to go with Yamaha as well because I want to be right. I could be contrarian and say Honda, but I'm not stupid. Yeah.
I love that. That is one of my favorite things about you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be devil's advocate. I want to be right.
There's no such thing as devil's advocate on this here podcast.
No, only correct.
We don't play like that. We're
Correct
only
advocates.
correct. And if we ultimately are not correct, it's just because we didn't have all the information at the time.
Correct.
And that's not our fault.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk top 5 predictions.
Top 5 riders.
Let's start at the 5th.
I'm gonna say my king, Brad Binder. Wasn't he 4th last year?
I can't remember if he was 4th. So maybe he was 5th last year.
He was 5th.
Oh my goodness.
Consistent
I love being
king.
right.
I'm staying with 5th.
For 5th, I am going to say this, I think, is my least defendable answer of my top 5, and one based mostly on emotions. I'm gonna go with Marco Bezzecchi.
I knew you were gonna say that.
P5.
I don't disagree. I think it could happen. I don't disagree with you.
I think there's a good chance. I think Marco essentially is he's in a position that he has the chance for a really good year.
We were concerned that it was going to be too much pressure on him if Jorge was going to be out. But if Jorge's not out, I think he's got some room to breathe. And I think that's going to be working really well for him.
Because, yeah, we were worried about pressure for him. And I think it's interesting because all of the development has been on Marco's shoulders this preseason. And he's kind of been killing it.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the pressure he needed. Needed a change of scenery. Needed kind of a fresh start. So I don't know. I'm really feeling like it could happen for him. I am manifesting.
I can see it. P4, Quattro. I'm going to go with Fabio Quartararo.
Well, I love that.
I think it's time for a comeback. Don't call it a comeback, but I think it's time for a comeback. I think Yamaha's going to have a really good year, and I think he's revved up. I think he's ready to go. Why not?
Amazing. I feel bad. I feel like I've betrayed Fabio because I went for P4. I went for the other Fabio. I went for recent wheelie enjoyer, collarbone breaker, Fabio Di Giannantonio. And here's my thing. Let me explain.
Okay.
I think, one, I would love for Fabio Quartararo P4. That I think is the one I want to happen. I think he's more likely to end up anywhere from P5 to P7. Yamaha still has a lot of work to do.
Mm-hmm.
But Di Giannantonio has the exact same bike that Mark and Pecco will have. If he's not in the top 5 by the end of the year, that's a really bad investment on Ducati's part. And I think he has to show up.
But what if he wins, as I've correctly predicted, Crash King?
Still not a great investment. I think universally bad ROI.
Yeah, bad ROI. No, I think that is probably more realistic, but I'm just feeling good. I'm feeling something.
Do I want my P4 to happen or do I want your P4 to happen? I want your P4 to happen.
But you want to be right.
I'm happy to be wrong.
Okay.
I think in this case.
Okay.
And that's big of me. P3.
P3, I'm deviating here. I think it's going to be Pecco.
Go on.
Because I think that he is going to get out-raced by Mark so hard that it's not just going to drop him down to, spoiler alert, P2. I think it's going to go beyond that. I think that he's going to have some serious mental game challenges this year, and I think it's going to affect him beyond just a 1-2 situation.
I love this. I also was thinking along these exact same lines. Spoiler alert, I did not put Pecco in P3. I have him in P2. The person I have in P3 is Jorge Martin, because I completely agree with you. I think the Mark Pecco fight is going to... I think it's going to hit Pecco in a way that he thinks he's prepared for, but isn't. However, I don't think the Aprilia that Jorge will be on this year is going to allow him to pick off Pecco in the same way he could if he was on a Ducati. So I think if we're talking straight, like, mental strength, I agree. Jorge P2, Pecco P3. But I think the Aprilia is not quite there yet, and so I think that'll hold him back just a little bit and give Pecco enough distance. But I love your thinking.
Well, to keep going with that thinking, I have Jorge in P2. I think he's going to be driven by this need to prove people wrong, right? I think that he's going to outride the Aprilia. I think that he is like, if he's not embarrassed by this crash preseason, or at least wants to like get off on a good start because of it, I think it's going to give him this boost into the beginning of the season that's going to probably start him off really well, even if he begins to taper in the end of the year. He's acquired this mental fortitude. He's going to therapy. He's working on X, Y, and Z. And I think that he could do it. I think that he could be in P2.
I totally agree. I think there's a level of maturity to him right now that absolutely was not there at the end of the 2023 season, and was there and is the reason he won the championship in 24. So I totally get where you're going with that. I just look back last year at the Aprilia. That bike is so inconsistent track to track. And so I think if Aprilia can make that up, there's a very solid chance that you're right. If they can't, we'll see.
We'll see. And that brings us to our number 1. Do you want to say it at the same time? 1, 2, 3.
Marc
Marquez. Yeah. It's like you said, it's his to lose. And I don't think he's going to lose it. Like, that's just
knock on
period of end of sentence. I think unless something goes dramatically wrong, I think that this is his to lose. And I think he's not going to lose it. I think he wants that title. And I think it's in his hands, basically. He's just got to, I mean, it's his season. It's his season. Yeah.
Next season, I'm going to be so gray. Like, that's, like, truly, the stress of this is making me go gray faster. So, whatever happens, Mark, just think about me. Going gray. Because of you.
Anyone who thinks it's not going to be Mark is playing devil's advocate and is going to be wrong.
And we don't do that here.
Exactly.
So I guess we'll come back to this at the end of the season and see how wrong or how right we were. So stay tuned. Should we talk about a couple of other things?
Yes. I wanted to start with the Great Wide World of Motorsport, something that we talked about last week, but cut for time. And now that we have a better grasp on, want to bring up again, which is the absolutely phenomenal IndyCar spots that ran during the Super Bowl.
I loved them.
I didn't even know that they were going to be running during the Super Bowl. It makes total sense now that it's IndyCar on Fox.
Yeah.
But these are these are masterpieces of ads. And our discussion basically boiled down to last week, to sum it up, is that what these ads do so well that I think F1 can learn from, that I think MotoGP can learn from, is that it turns these guys that the majority of Americans maybe aren't so familiar with, Pato O'Ward, Joseph Newgarden, Alex Palou, and it turns them into these characters, and it gives you this brief, exciting insight into their mythology almost, and their lore, and it makes you want to latch onto them. Like, every time that Pato spot comes across my feed on Instagram, I stop and watch it. It is so good. And it makes me love him so much more than I already did.
I completely agree. You know, actually, what these spots remind me of? They remind me of the Old Spice, like, look at your man,
Yes.
now look over here, now look back at your man.
Yeah.
And, like, just that, like, very quick, like, the way the videos, the spots are shot and edited, and, like, the way the copy and the story of each of these guys kind of comes together feels very, kind of like James Bond, but, like, sexy and funny and irreverent.
Very irreverent.
And they're funny, like, unrelated. I did get a year of Peacock today. Like, I did it. Like, I paid for it. Like, whatever. I'm going to be watching IndyCar now.
We may add IndyCar into this podcast.
I mean, we probably should.
But,
I think you're right. We're right when we talked about this last week, is that I think every sport can take notes from this. I think that's like how you get people talking about these athletes, especially in the middle of a Super Bowl, who we know by the fact of being Americans and like watching the Super Bowl every year, the ads have gotten worse and worse and worse every single year. And so I honestly think these spots were like major standouts.
They were the best spots of the night for me.
I agree. Long story short, we will be watching IndyCar, I guess.
I mean, like, I think Pato O'Ward is the only good thing about McLaren at all, period. Sorry to Oscar.
This is like neither here nor there, but Max Verstappen is officially a model for AlphaTauri, the clothing brand. As if he wasn't already.
Yeah, wasn't this already in place is number one. Number two, I love that up until them sharing these race suit photos today, Red Bull has been ignoring Liam in their preseason entirely.
Yeah. I mean, I would.
I wish I was.
I will continue to do so, most likely.
He looks like Sonic the Hedgehog with his new haircut.
I haven't seen it because I don't engage. And I'm excited for the various levels of hate watching this year. Gonna be honest.
We're protecting our peace.
We really are. The only other thing I think from F1 I had on the list is the
James
F1
Vowels'
launch.
Big Throbbing Brain.
What?
James Vowels' Big Throbbing Brain. Did you not see James Vowels' Big Throbbing Brain?
Look at my face. I have not.
I'm so excited to tell you about this. So Williams launched at Williams team launch on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Williams launched on Valentine's Day. Steve Jones from Channel 4's F1 team was the kind of MC of the event. And they had a Q&A segment, I kid you not, called James Vowels' Big Throbbing Brain.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go on.
I'm going to let you sit with that and digest that how you need. But in the Williams blue on white font on a big old screen behind these two men's heads was James Vowels' Big Throbbing Brain. And that's literally all I have to say on the topic. Like, I don't know what else there is to say other than they had a Q&A that was entitled James Vowels' Big Throbbing Brain. And Steve Jones made a couple jokes about, like, him having sex with his wife to do this event.
Sometimes I wonder if, like, am I a prude? Or is it, like, I don't know, like, what? Yeah, I'm going to have to sit with that. I want to meet the intern that came up with that because I know that's a joke that someone came up with. Where did it come from?
James?
Do we have background?
Let me see. No, I don't know. I don't think so. Anyways, yeah, that's what happened, I think. I think that's the most important news to come out of F1 in the past week. But
I don't like that.
No one
really
does.
Honest. So I did actually, aside from whatever the fuck is going on with the Williams team, I did want to actually bring them up because the F1 launch, I think by the time this episode is out, the F1 launch will have happened at London at the O2. We've made our feelings very clear about this event in the past.
Bad idea.
We've also talked about the fact that it's a bit weird that teams are also doing their solo launches before and after the official sport launch. What I did not know until recently is that McLaren and Williams, who are the teams that are doing their solo launches before the full sport launch, they were restricted from using their actual 2025 liveries.
Correct.
So that's why McLaren and Williams both had one-off kind of wacky liveries for these launches. Which is like, I really hope the cost of that car wrap was excluded from the cost cap.
Speaking of cost of car wrap, aforementioned the team they told you not to worry about, VCarb, had to delay their preseason testing / driving filming because the F1 event at the O2 requested first look, like by contract, that all the liveries had to be first look at the O2 event. And they were planning on doing this before the O2 event. And then they realized, oh shit, somebody might photograph our fucking car. And they didn't think to...
And then we're liable.
They didn't think to plan ahead in the, 6 months they've had this information and move their car, like their filming date around. So they had to push back this whole filming day. God knows how much money that's cost them. Because
so this is the team
they told you not to worry about. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried. If nothing else, I'm not worried.
I know everyone's been kind of like, oh, the artists they got to perform are super weird. I really like Kane Brown. I'm really excited to see him perform. He has this song that I really love.
I have no idea who that is, but I'm excited for you.
He is a country rap musician, and he is from Georgia, and he has a song called Bury Me in Georgia that gets me hyped like nothing else for the Georgia football season.
Well, I love that.
Yeah. Weird pick for this event, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know why that was picked, but I guess this is the era of country around the world, so whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I think like just this whole event is kind of wacky. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground, as always.
As always. And our big throbbing brains are going to switch over to a little segment we like to call the grid as ... where for the uninitiated, we take a couple of riders, a couple of drivers from the wide world of motorsport, and we categorize them correctly into a concept, a person, a place, a thing, etc., etc. Today's theme is going to be minor holidays / silly holidays / I call them dumb shit holidays.
Amazing. I'll go first. My chosen riders for this week's edition of The Grid As are Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin. Starting with Pecco, I am choosing, I'm actually choosing today, President's Day. I think, does he give a shit about presidents? No.
Who does?
But I think Pecco's, not me, I think Pecco's energy aligns really well with President's Day. It's the holiday you kind of forget about. It's sick because nobody works. We're halfway through February. This is the time that you have made it through the longest part of winter. You can think about the work that you've done since the new year. You can actually put time and effort into the goals and kind of aspirations for this year that actually make sense. I think this is when you get realistic about what your year looks like, and I think that is a very Pecco state of mind. For Jorge, I have chosen Labor Day. That's in August or whatever, right? It's like summer?
Yeah.
Okay. For Jorge, I have chosen Labor Day, which again, another American holiday. Sorry. But everyone goes somewhere on Labor Day. It is a holiday weekend that everybody has plans, depending on your age, depending on your interests. It's a weekend to do, like, throw a blowout party, to do something crazy. And then you come back and you start the kind of academic year off strong. Mm-hmm. I think that's a very Jorge Martin thing to do.
Let's just have fun.
Yeah. Ball out. Go to Ibiza.
Ibiza.
Come home. Grind.
Yeah, I also chose Labor Day, and I chose it for Max Verstappen. Because one thing that King's doing is not labor, which is what Labor Day has become, although it used to be a celebration of unions and like the labor movements in the United States. And I think that he would like see that he'd be like, look, I'm in a union. I don't want to do labor. This holiday is for me.
Max Verstappen is very protective of his time outside of his 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
He's got his side hustles. He's got his family. He's got his hobbies. He's busy. He's not clocking in for overtime.
Correct. You want to make that man do community service? No. He's fucking off to Ibiza.
Yeah, that man is doing community service in Ibiza, and he's having a blast.
That is called, community service is called a gin and tonic. He is doing a gin and tonic right now in Ibiza.
I see it.
And I wish that was me. And then I guess that means that we have to pick the only other Red Bull driver on the grid, Yuki Tsunoda.
Correct.
Right. And for Yuki, I'm going with my favorite holiday, also coincidentally my birthday. That is National Middle Child's Day. That boy.
Oh my God, that is such a good day for Yuki.
Is always over. Yuki, as a middle child, I see you. I see what is happening to you. You should be in that Red Bull seat, and you're not. And it's because they don't pay attention to you, and they don't give you the love and attention you deserve. And King, I see it.
I stand with Yuki.
I stand with Yuki, and I stand with all middle children everywhere.
I love it.
I don't even know if you have siblings, Yuki, but I see you. Regardless, I believe that brings us to the end of the pod.
It sure does.
When we come back, I'm sure we'll have probably a little less MotoGP to talk about, unless something wild happens, and a lot more F1 to talk about, because we will be shitting on whatever shit show happens tomorrow at the O2.
God.
I know. Get gird your loins, everyone.
My loins are girded. My brain is throbbing. I'm ready, even though I don't want to be.
And so that's it for us. Make sure you follow us on TikTok and Instagram at MotoMouse.
Come hang out.
And let's keep chatting soon.
Bye.